If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
How will you do that exactly, since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control?
We will. I promise you, we'll be able to do it.
Will you commit today to turning off and pulling the plug on Nord Stream 2? You didn't mention it. You haven't mentioned it.
As I already said, we are acting together. We are absolutely united, and we will not taking different steps. We will do the same steps, and they will be very, very hard to Russia, and they should understand.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. In this video, I'm going to carry on talking about Germany, and today's topic is going to be all of the companies, or especially German companies, moving out of the EU and going to other regions of the world like the United States, and some are even moving to China. So I'm going to be discussing this in a lot of detail. You're also going to get information you are not going to get anywhere else. So stick around, watch the video to the end, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe. And also want to shout out to everyone that's been supporting me so far on locals. I just need 4 more of you to join my locals in order for me to carry on making YouTube videos. Really appreciate all of the support you guys have been giving me so far. And like I said, I'm only asking for 4 more members to support me on locals. I don't need the hundreds and thousands of local members or Patreon members like most other YouTube channels have. I just need enough for me to be able to cover my costs in order for me to make these videos. And that's all. 4 more guys, and I know you can do it. So without further ado, let's carry on with the show. So due to the high energy costs in the EU, companies are being driven away from the EU. And according to the Wall Street Journal, a lot of companies are moving from the EU over to the United States. A lot to do with obviously the high gas prices, but also some of it is related to Biden signing the Inflation Reduction Act. And this Reduction Act gives subsidies and benefits to companies moving their manufacturing over to the United States, and it also offers a lot of benefits to car companies, EV companies, and also renewable companies as well. So according to the Wall Street Journal, the companies are drawn to the United States. Despite being high inflation, they still do have a lot of gas and energy and oil. And the United States is pretty much self-sufficient when it comes to that. The gas prices are pretty low, and I'm talking about natural gas prices, not oil, because Americans do call oil as gas as well. So we're talking about natural gas here. And unlike the EU, the United States has not threatened companies with fuel rationing, and the prices in EU have gone up 400% compared to last year. So which companies are looking to move over to the United States? Well, Volkswagen is one of them. And this will be a huge loss for the EU because Volkswagen employs hundreds and thousands of people around the world. And it has plants all the way from Germany to Eastern Europe, so that's going to be a huge loss. There's also Danish jeweler Pandora, and Volkswagen has already announced US expansion this year as well. Luxembourg-based steelmaker ArcelorMittal recently said it will slash production at the German power plants and focus work at the facilities in Texas. Amsterdam-based chemical firm ODYSEE has also said this month it would expand its ammonia plant in the US. American companies such as Tesla said it's going to pause plans to make battery cells in Germany, while JP Morgan is thinking of closing its Frankfurt headquarters because of the threat of disrupted trading due to the event of blackouts as well. So as you can see, there's huge issues happening in the EU. So let me tell you something. This is all caused by the United States. Recently, a leaked report came out from the Rand Corporation, and it reveals the true motives of the plan coming out of the United States. And you can see this is the report here. And The executive summary for the report begins with the title Weakening Germany, Strengthening the United States. So you got to tell yourself, all of this, was it planned? Because this war or special military operation going on in Ukraine, this was all instigated by the United States. They could have easily stopped this war from happening in the first place if they really wanted to. They could have accepted Russia's red lines that Ukraine should never join NATO. They do not want nuclear missiles on their borders. They want the Minsk agreement to be implemented. All of this could have been avoided. And even when the war started, they could have stopped at any point. They could have pushed Ukraine into peace talks. And instead, they sent Boris to meet with Zelensky and make sure Zelensky does not sign in any peace deals whatsoever. So you see, all of this must have been planned, because they knew that if they start a conflict in Ukraine, what this would have meant was Germany would have stopped getting the cheap gas they were getting from Russia. It would have stopped Germany from getting closer to Russia, and it would have affected the rest of the EU. They would have had to replace the oil and gas they were getting from Russia and replace it with very expensive LNG they were getting it from the United States. Plus, you got to think about the transport costs of shipping the LNG across from the United States into Europe. You would have had to put in the cost of building up all of the infrastructure to receive the LNG. You need LNG terminals, you need more LNG tankers. So all of this would have cost the EU much, much more. And United States does not even have enough LNG to supply to the EU. So as you know, the price of the LNG will start shooting up because you have more demand than supply. And this is what's been happening. The prices of gas have gone up 400%. 400%. So what you're going to have as an impact of all of this, you're going to have top EU companies moving away from the EU. They're going to have to move to other parts of the world. So one of the things that the United States is doing is trying to get these EU companies to move over to the United States. This is part of their plan, you know, and this is how you deindustrialize the EU, how you deindustrialize Germany and move all of your best companies over to the United States, because it becomes so expensive to run a company in EU because of the high oil and gas prices. It becomes much cheaper to do it in the United States. And you just have to ask yourself, was this all part of the plan in the first place? And if this was part of United States plan, then how stupid are these EU leaders for falling for it? How stupid are the German leaders? You got the Green Party, Scholz and Habeck and Baerbock, and Ursula as well, the leader of the EU. And apart from Orban, the rest of the EU leaders just went ahead with the plan. It's almost like the USA has told them, each and every one of them, would you mind just jumping off this cliff and don't ask any questions? And all of them are just jumping off the cliff one by one without asking any questions, without even thinking about it. And that's exactly how it is. Are they this stupid? Even ordinary citizens like me could see this a mile away. A mile away. And these EU leaders, who's supposed to be the brightest and the best that we have, can't even see it. Are they that blind? Are they that stupid? And look at this. The EU is assessing if the US Inflation Act is in breach of WTO rules. Well, it's too late for that, mate. It's too late. You've already caused all the damage. There's nothing much you can do. You know, the gas prices are 400% and they're going to start rising to 500%, 600%. Who knows? These companies who have manufacturing plants in the EU cannot run a business with these high gas prices. It doesn't matter if US Inflation Act is in breach of WTO rules or not. These companies are going to move out. It's way too late. So let's look at Volkswagen first. So Volkswagen has said that they have gas supplies to last for one winter. However, they will not be able to last for another winter. And they have said that short-term solutions would mean stocking up warehouses and pipelines and filling up ships and trains. Mid-term solutions could include relocating production to other regions. And we're talking not only just United States, but also to Asia as well. So let me tell you something about Volkswagen. Volkswagen has got 192 billion in debt. It's the world's most indebted company. And they have a huge problem right now. They are trying to move all of their legacy systems into EV systems, and it's not going to be easy and it's not going to be cheap, because all of these years they have been stocking up on factories with lots of legacy equipment. And this is why, with the world moving into EVs, they just cannot move fast enough. And it's going to cost them a lot of money to move from legacy system to EV, and they're still struggling to do so. They have to hire new staff, they have to buy new equipment, they have to build new factories. It's much easier for companies such as Tesla, because Tesla just focus on EV companies. They have their gigafactories just focusing on making batteries and cars and working on their technology. So it's much more difficult for Volkswagen to move from stuff that they've been doing all of these years into EV. So obviously this is costing them, this is going to cost them more. And if they have to move factories over to the United States or Asia or China, it's going to cost them a lot more. However, if they move to the US, fine, natural gas is cheaper, but you still got the problem with high inflation in the US. And where are you going to get your raw materials from? Where are you going to get lithium? Where are you going to get cobalt? Where are you going to get other raw materials you need for electric cars? The US currently does not have that. The only country that does is China. And this is why China is the largest EV factory in the world. All of the major EV factories are there. Tesla is building its second gigafactory there. It's already got one gigafactory in Shanghai. So all of the major car companies or EV companies are in China, because China has all of the raw materials and they have the supply chains, and the inflation is currently at 2.5%, much lower than what it is in the US. So Volkswagen is actually much more attractive to move to China. However, there's problems moving to China in terms of geopolitics, which I'm going to go over later. The German government is stopping a lot of German businesses to move their factories across to China, and they are putting stops in place. They are stopping funding, they are stopping loans to a lot of companies if they do that. And also, with all of the current geopolitics going on around the world, companies are very reluctant to move to China because of that. Another thing that the Wall Street Journal is not going to tell you is Volkswagen, as well as BMW and Mercedes-Benz, they are all expanding in China. And recently Volkswagen has announced 2 or 3 more factories in China. BMW has done the same, and so has Mercedes-Benz. So all of this stuff, they're not really going to tell you in the Wall Street Journal. But if you look around, like this one is on the Financial Times, and you will also see factories announced by BMW, and I can see a lot more factories being announced over the next year or so by all of these car makers, German car makers, because the facts of facts, guys. In China, it's still much cheaper to produce these cars compared to Europe. The gas is cheaper, the electricity is cheaper, the raw materials are cheaper, and plus you've got all of the supply chains as well. Plus you got very cheap labor as well compared to the United States. So it just, the facts are facts. The only problem that these companies have is geopolitics issues, and I'm sure the German government and the EU and the United States will do everything they can to get these companies out of China. So you got Tesla as well. Tesla, there's this article, it says Tesla, Musk may regret putting Tesla's first European plant in Germany. So Tesla, it has got a European plant in Germany. However, with the high gas prices and stuff, Elon Musk is very, very worried. And right now what they have done is they have put a stop on some of the battery plants in that factory. But this factory has been giving Tesla a lot of problems. It's given Tesla a lot of red tape, for example. And there was always delay after delay opening this plant. And you can see the facility, which was announced in late 2019, was delayed for months. They had a lot of legal challenges from environmental groups. The site would use too much water and threaten local wildlife. So he had a lot of red tape, a lot of issues. The plant in China, they don't have to go through any red tape, and that plant in Shanghai is currently at full capacity, so there's no issues there, and China has plenty of natural gas, plenty of energy. So Tesla is regretting seriously having a plant in Germany, and I think that could seriously impact Tesla in a big way, and they could be moving most of their stuff out of Germany and back to US or into China. So what the Wall Street Journal is not going to tell you is that a lot of top German companies and EU companies are actually moving to China, and they're not going to tell you that. And recently BASF has moved its production to China, and this is the factory in China, and they have spent up to 10 billion euros. You can see 10 billion euros they've invested in this plant, and BASF is now shutting down its plant in Germany, and you can see here how gas rationing at Germany's BASF plant could plunge Europe into crisis. So now that they have opened a plant in China and they have issues running the plant in Germany because of the lack of gas, they could be fully having all of their productions in China, which will be much cheaper for them, and slowly they're going to be shutting down their plant here as well. And this is causing huge issues in the EU, because this is a major company which provides a lot of stuff, chemical stuff, for a lot of industries. And you can see here, and you can see how important this company is. It produces anything from toothpaste to vitamins to building insulation to nappies, and it provides ibuprofen for painkillers as well, and it also provides materials for EV car or the car industry. And one of the few remaining end products is used to reduce air pollution from diesel engines as well. So it's a very important company providing a lot of materials that the EU needs. And probably the most important thing that this company produces is fertilizer. And as you know, you need fertilizer for agriculture, and without that agriculture, you're not going to have food. And especially with the current food shortages we are having around the world, this company is very important, not only to the EU, but also to the world as well. Now I'm coming on to the German economic minister, Robert Habeck. I don't know about you, but I feel that he is one apple short of being a fruit basket. He is single-handedly destroying the German businesses, the German industry, and the German country as a whole, and he does not care about it one bit. He must be a secret agent working for the Biden administration or something, sent to Germany to destroy Germany and to keep it down. So not being satisfied by ruining the good relationship they had with Russia, getting all of that cheap gas from Russia, destroying all of that, and now they want to move on to the next target, which is China. So he says, listen, Berlin will not refrain from criticizing China's human rights violations, and we cannot allow ourselves to be blackmailed, he said. So he's producing on a new trade policy, and apparently from what I heard from other news outlets, and obviously this is not official, but they are going to be stopping funding, they will be stopping subsidies for companies who set up in China. They're not going to be giving them loans. Also, they're going to be taxing them heavily. So they are coming up with some new trade policies which is going to really severely impact companies or German companies in China. And according to his excuse, he does not want to be blackmailed by China, and that's his reason. We cannot allow ourselves to be blackmailed, he said. So at one point, can someone tell me, when did China blackmail Germany? So it seems like he's going along with the United States. The United States probably told him, all right, when we're kind of happy with what you did with Russia, but now let's move on to the next target, which is China. I want you to destroy all of your relationships with China as well. So let me tell you something about China. So this is again this article about Volkswagen, BMW moving to China. And one particular advisor asked one of the CEOs from a German company, saying, it's one thing leaving Russia, but what if German companies were pressured to leave China? What would happen? And that person said it would be close to an existential crisis. And then you got to look at companies which rely on China for at least half of the annual net profits. So the precise number is not disclosed. And you can see Volkswagen here is more Chinese than German. So imagine if all of these companies were asked not to work in China or not to have business in China. All of these companies will just go bust overnight. So I just do not understand what this guy Habeck is doing. You know, this guy is seriously trying to destroy not only the German economy, the German way of life, but German businesses, but ordinary German people as well. So he's talking about human rights. He says here, Berlin will not refrain from criticizing China's human rights. So the same thing Scholz did to criticize MBS in his trip yesterday. And do you know what MBS did? Kicked him out. This meeting with the MBS didn't even last for 30 minutes. You know, I've looked at some Saudi newspapers and they said, you know, the meeting lasted only 30 minutes. So imagine, you know, sitting down with MBS, bringing up the whole human rights issues. And I can imagine MBS just telling the guy, you know what, just go, just get out my face. You know, Scholz wasn't even greeted in the airport by anybody important. This is what Saudis really think of him. And I've also had a look at other Saudi papers. The news didn't even make the papers. The news did not even make the papers. This is how important, you know, Saudis think about the Germans. And now suddenly Germans suddenly think that they are very important and they can pull out all of their companies from China. Seriously, I don't know what this guy is smoking. So what do the Chinese think about it? And you can see here, Habeck's naivety towards China rhetoric is quite nonsensical. So they're pretty much laughing at him, absolutely laughing at him. And you can see here what a certain IFO Institute said, a Munich-based research institution. This is a Munich-based research institution. Germany would face costs 6 times as much as Brexit if the country chooses to decouple from China. Despite the protracted COVID-19 pandemic and global geopolitics tensions around the world, bilateral trade between China and Germany rose 2% year on year, 8 months this year, to 155 billion, data from the Chinese customs showed, marking an important milestone for China cooperation with Hamburg, Germany and Europe. The 10,000 fully loaded China-Europe freight train arrived in Hamburg on Friday. So you can see there's trains going from China all the way to Germany, part of the BRI. And I believe there's cars loaded on these trains as well. So it's very, very cheap transport as opposed to sending them by ship, where you have to pay a lot of costs in terms of gas and petrol. You got to pay costs for going along the straits as well, through the Suez Canal and many things. And I really don't know what this guy Habeck is playing at. You know, he is single-handedly trying to destroy the German way of life. And he's talking about the human rights, but what about the human rights of Germans who want to live a good life, who want to be warm, who want to be fed? What about those human rights? Isn't that important? Isn't it important to keep your people warm, fed, give them a good life, rather than them being hungry and cold in the winter, shivering cold, and probably most people will die? You know, this guy really doesn't know what he's talking about. Anyway, that's all I have time for today, guys. Let me know what you guys think of Habeck and what's happening with the Germans' ridiculous policy towards China, ridiculous policy towards Russia. I really hope that Germany one day can get some competent leaders in place and get this country back on track. Because these leaders currently, with Scholz and Habeck and Baerbock and many others from the Green parties, they're absolutely destroying the Germans. They are doing everything that the United States want them to do, and they are keeping Germans down, keeping Russia out, and obviously moving all of their companies to the US, which means the USA will be moving up in the world. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Really appreciate the help and support you guys have been giving me. And if you guys can do me a favor and join my locals and join as a supporter, I just need 4 more members and that's enough. I'm not looking to be a millionaire out of this. All I need is to cover my costs to create these videos, so I can create these videos for you regularly. That's all I'm asking. 4 more members, and I'm sure you can do it. And I'll see you in the next video, guys. Thanks for all the support and the help you have given me so far, and I'll see you soon.